Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we are diving straight into a profoundly grim, incredibly dark Gothic fable. It's a story that serves as a really chilling warning about the extreme dangers of human isolation and hyper-rationalism. We'll be following a figure known simply as the Sage, a guy who honestly believed he could outsmart human suffering by just building a fortress way up above it. But as we're going to see, the very structures we build to keep the darkness out are often the exact same ones that end up locking the emptiness in.
To really understand the Sage, we actually have to start with a brilliant inversion of a very famous premise by Friedrich Nietzsche. You know the one, what does not kill me makes me stronger. Or, in the original German, was mich nicht umbringt, macht mich starker. Well, the Sage absolutely believed he had conquered his weaknesses. But here's the catch. He completely failed to ask what was slowly killing him from the inside out. He ignored the creeping decay of his own soul, and instead, he chose to build his supposed strength on the absolute denial of his vulnerabilities. He essentially built a massive monument right on the bones of a dead question. Section 1, the architecture of denial. So, our story kicks off with the construction of the Sage's domain. He literally builds this ivory tower high above the cloud line, all to completely escape the painful groans, the chaotic suffering, and the messy biological realities of the Earth down below. And what's fascinating is how he weaponizes this architecture as a psychological defense mechanism. He didn't just put up a tall building, he mapped his mental defenses directly onto its physical traits. Think about it. The sheer height of the tower, he called that reason. That agonizing, absolute solitude, he somehow rationalized that as virtue. And the dead silence of his own repressed emotions, he called that peace. He used this entirely sterile scaffolding to perfectly justify his total psychological dissociation. Section 2, the psychic vacuum. Here's the thing about an obsessive pursuit of sterile logic. It always demands a sacrifice. Just look at the fundamental elements systematically dismantled by the tower's design. By elevating himself so far above the Earth, the Sage literally stripped away ancestral myth. He completely eradicated human ritual. He severed any real connection to the deeper, unexplainable mysteries of existence, and just outright outlawed biological and emotional chaos. By trying to optimize his life into pure, clean math, the architecture created this suffocating psychic vacuum. And whoever lives in a space like that, they aren't enlightened. They are left spiritually famished, just absolutely starving for meaning. The tower does not fall. The man inside it hollows. Wow, that right there is the core tragedy of hyperrationalism. It's not some sudden, explosive collapse you can see coming. It is a slow, agonizing hollowing out from the inside. Eventually, the man and his empty architecture become totally indistinguishable from one another. They're just two structures of identical vacancy, standing tall, while the wind howls unimpeded through every single empty corridor. Section 3, the hollow masquerade. Now, if this existence is so incredibly empty, you gotta ask yourself, why keep up the act? Why maintain the illusion when the inside is completely rotted out? Well, the answer is deeply psychological. The Sage's detachment wasn't actually an expression of pure enlightenment. Not at all. That scaffolding of reason he was so proud of, it was really just a golden mask. It was a hollow masquerade designed to hide his internal shame, his repressed animalistic urges, and, perhaps most importantly, a bitter, festering resentment against a chaotic world that just refused to be perfectly ordered by his intellect. The whole tower was literally just a monument to his inability to cope with reality. Section 4, dialogue with the abyss. Because psychological repression is a bill that always comes due, right? We finally reached the pivotal moment in our fable. It's the day the sterile logic completely fails. The stone cracks right beneath his feet, and he is forced to look down. Staring into the sudden void, the Sage desperately projects his fragile ego into the dark. He cries out, "I am reason. I am virtue. I am untouched by the messy earth." It's the ultimate defense mechanism of the hyper-rational mind, trying to literally argue its way out of an existential collapse. But then, the abyss responds. And remember, this is the personified unconscious, the repressed collective weight of all that human chaos. And it doesn't respond with malice or anger. No, it responds with the terrifying ancient patience of something that had always been waiting. I have always been waiting. Repression is never permanent. It's such a chilling reminder. You simply cannot build a tower high enough to escape your own shadow. At this point, the Sage is in a total panic. His intellect tries one last desperate time to reassert its sterile dominance against the encroaching dark.
He shouts back, "My tower stands! I have built perfection and peace." He's pointing to the physical structure as proof of his psychological stability, totally confusing concrete walls for actual, genuine inner strength.
And with one single truth, the abyss completely shatters the illusion. You are a hollow shell, and the wind howls unimpeded through every corridor. Just like that, the rigid structures of his ego fracture under their own immense, unsupported weight. The sage finally realizes that in trying to make himself an untouchable god of logic, he has turned himself into nothing more than an empty room.
Section 5. The Body's Great Reason.
In this whole dramatic confrontation perfectly sets up the total rejection of the sage's sterile logic. The fable leans heavily into a brilliant philosophical concept right here. The mind's superficial intellect, the exact thing the sage worshipped, is actually what philosophers call poor reason. It's sterile, it's detached, and it is secretly fueled by resentment. But true wisdom, that is the great reason of the body. Sure, it's chaotic, but it is grounded in a blood-deep instinct and biological reality. The sage realizes that his poor reason up in the tower was absolutely nothing compared to the profound truth of the body he tried so hard to leave behind. Section 6. Gravity as Final Philosopher. So with the golden mask completely shattered, the sage is left with literally only one possible direction to go. He cannot climb any higher. He must surrender to gravity. And gravity in this fable isn't just a physical law, it is the truest philosopher. It's the inescapable force that pulls the inflated, arrogant ego right back down to earth, demanding a reckoning with everything we have repressed. It pulls us back to our instinctual nature, forcing us to deal with the pain, the dirt, and the messy reality we tried so desperately to escape. Now, to leave the tower, to climb down from that sterile isolation, well, that might feel like a massive failure to the ego. But as the story beautifully puts it, to descend is not defeat, to descend is to remember. Ultimately, the sage learns that true enduring strength doesn't come from building sterile fortresses way up above our pain. True strength requires coming back down to the earth, feeling the gravity of our existence, and actually integrating our messy, chaotic, painful depths.
I really want to leave you with this final, somewhat haunting thought as we wrap up this explainer today. Take a good look at the structures, the habits, the rationalizations in your own life. What towers have you built to stay above the clouds? What parts of the messy earth are you refusing to hear? What structures have you built to avoid the gravity of your own nature? Think on that for a bit. It's a heavy question, for sure. Until next time, keep exploring the depths.